Hello and welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, where we talk about Spider-Man stuff and usually clones, and there's a little bit of that today. My name is Vincent.
I'm Mike, and your sponsor this week, Vince. We're gonna roll back the clock to 2013. Are you ready for the most anticipated film of the year?
Sure.
It's Man of Steel. I got this bookmark here, and you can get ready for Man of Steel, Vince, by reading some of these classic Superman books. You ready?
Sure.
Superman Earth 1, Volume 1.
No.
Superman Earth 1, Volume 2.
No.
All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
Superman Last Son of Krypton.
Yeah, sure.
Superman for Tomorrow.
Kind of.
It'll have pretty art if you read that book. And then last, Superman Action Comics Volume 1, Superman and the Men of Steel from the New 52.
No.
Yeah. So, we're covering Spider-Verse. We've made it.
Yes, this is true. So, Spider-Verse, the ultimate crossover. Lots of Spider-Men and only 2 hosts. How will we be able to cover this properly?
I don't know, maybe you should eat an edible or something.
I think we'll manage it. So, this story, this giant epic by Dan Slott, runs through Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, numbers 9 through 15. And this is Volume 3 because that's just how it works at this point.
I do have to say, I got a slight anxiety attack when I originally was looking up what we were reading for this episode. And I thought it was everything with the tie-ins, which is over 600 pages. And I had like a panic attack.
Yeah. So, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, it lasted, I think it's like, we read the final issue. In fact, that was the only episode that I wasn't on. But I think it goes to like 441. And then
Yeah.
in 1999 with John Byrne, Howard Mackie, and
that goes to 50, right?
Yeah, the franchise being a little iffy, they rebooted it. They decreased from 4 titles down to 2 with number 1s. That's Volume 2. And that eventually catches up to part of the JMS run. And after 50, they renumber it to, I think that's 500. They renumber it for 500.
Yes.
Because this is the mid 2000s, and a lot of the Marvel books had been renumbered around the Heroes Return era, but a lot of them, had been renumbered, but then they go back to legacy numbering a few years later to hit those big benchmark numbers, and they keep them at the legacy numbering for a little bit, and then inevitably renumber them again.
I think the tell is after Siege, everything starts getting kind of renumbered again.
And so Spider-Man kept with the legacy numbering for quite a while, through Brand New Day.
Over 600.
Yep.
Actually over 700, right? 702 is where the first reboot, well, I guess the third reboot comes in.
Yeah, it got to 700, and then Superior Spider-Man, which makes sense a little bit to not have Superior Spider-Man 703. But then when Superior Spider-Man's over, they decide another number 1. And this is also coincides with the Marvel Now era pretty much. And so we're officially in renumbering era.
Have we gotten to Amazing Spider-Man 800? Yeah, we did. It was like the end of Slott.
Yeah, you mean not within the time period, not within the context of this podcast.
No. I'm just wondering. They didn't count the They didn't count the Superior issues, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think
remember if they did.
I don't remember. But yeah, 800 was the finale of Red Goblin and all that shit.
Wasn't it 801?
No, it was 800. 801 is a one-off with Marcos Martin.
Okay.
Is just like a final emotional kind of take on Peter Parker.
All right.
So number 9. Also, so the first arc of this series, I'm not really certain what happens, and then there's an original sin tie-in, which we'll get to,
My God.
and then some other shit happens, and so we're at issue 9. The thing is, I mean, obviously there is original sin, and we will talk about that a little bit on this podcast and how that affects Spider-Man. But other than that and Spider-Verse, this volume of Spider-Man, like, it's really not known for much, in my opinion.
It's
There's
probably
not
known for Spider-Verse. That's it.
yeah. So as we said, obviously Dan Slott writes this thing, and in these main Amazing Spider-Man issues with the whole main story, the art is by Olivier Coipel, who is I mean, to this day, is one of Marvel's top artists. Um, and he's most known for, I'd say, his really only like consistent run on a character is Thor.
Yeah, it's Thor. But his art on Thor looks drastically different from what it looks here. His art here is to give, I guess, our viewers at home or anywhere else, it's a mobile show, um, with an idea of what his art looks like now. It looks more like Clayman, and especially in who is ever coloring and inking this. Um, but his art used to kind of remind me about, it was not Ed McGuinness style, but it was, I don't know, in my eyes it was a little bit like that, but like never like bulky like Ed McGuinness.
Yeah. He's also known, Marvel pulls him out for events. So he did House of M, he did Siege, which was tied in heavily with Thor, and he's also contributed to Avengers versus X-Men and other stuff like that. And helping him on some of the, like, on a backup that we read and then some later issues, is Giuseppe Camuncoli, who is just basically the main Spider-Man artist of this era. So this is a big multiversal crossover thing. And so we open with the Spider-Man of Earth 449 getting eaten by Morlun. Um, and I think it's a decent fake out because they set it up like, oh, here's Peter Parker, let's start this Spider-Man story. And then
Yeah,
at the last panel, it's like, that's a different Earth.
yeah, it's on the moon.
Yep. And Morlun, is it Morlun or Morlun?
I call him Moreland.
All right, I'm gonna do Morlun. Viewers at
That's
home, pronounce it however you'd like.
it. You can also just cite in bad villain, and it works
Yeah.
just as fine.
He is from Earth 001, which I think is kind of dumb.
It's really dumb.
I mean, if you were gonna designate an Earth 001, I feel like it would be something more important than this. And that's referred to as Loom World because there's this web, and it allows Morlun's people to hunt spider people. Um, and there's this web, and his people eat spider characters,
Yeah,
and we
because they need to survive or something.
yeah, they're the inheritors, and we get introduced to some of them. They all have names, but I don't really care. Um, Morlun's brother, who's like a little stockier, a little cockier, his name's Deimos, and I'd say besides Morlun and their father, whose name is Solace, but we don't meet him until later, Deimos probably the third most important of the inheritors. And his sister has, they also, since they go and invade these worlds and eat Spider-Men, they abduct some of the supporting characters and villains just for fun. And so they have like hunting dogs of like Silver Sable or Puma or Craven or Rhino and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And Morlun, he's been staying away from Earth 616 because Peter Parker, has fucked him up a few times. And so he's like, don't go there.
he's like the only one to beat any inheritor.
Yeah. And so Deimos is going to go fuck around, and we get introduced to Silk.
I yeah. All right. I don't like Silk.
Yeah,
I
I
had
kind
my
of
fill of her in this book alone. I don't ever need to see this character again.
yeah, I don't like Silk. She's the Spider-Man aspect of Original Sin. Original Sin is this pretty dumb mystery event from Jason Aaron where the Watcher gets fucking killed, and that's pretty stupid. But more stupid is the mandated tie-in aspect, where rather than comics like directly tying into this mystery of the Watcher and everything like that, each major comic was supposed to basically the concept is introduce a giant retcon that
Yeah,
is going to piss off like half the readership. And so you have examples like obviously Thor, which was Jason Aaron's his like one of his primary titles at the time. Thor loses his worthiness, and that gets us on the whole Jane Foster era, which of course had been divisive. Hulk's retcon is that like Tony Stark may have like tampered with the bomb, and so Tony Stark may have contributed to Bruce Banner becoming the Hulk.
that's stupid.
On the other side of that equation, Iron Man's retcon is that he's adopted and the Starks are not his parents.
Also stupid.
Yes. The Guardians of the Galaxy related one, I believe. Well, I get it mixed up because I always think it's the dumb Venom like symbiotes equal Green Lantern rings retcon, but it's not that. I believe the Guardians of the Galaxy retcon has to do with Thanos and finally addressing Nova and the Thanos imperative conclusion. Um, there's just all kinds of stupid shit.
I've never read the event. I've only ever heard you talk about how bad it is.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there are. Oh, actually, all right. So the original sin part of Thor is not the hammer and being unworthy. That's the conclusion of original sin, or part of it. The Thor part of original sin, in fact, is the introduction of the 10th realm and Angela to the Marvel universe, which I really hate. There's just I just really don't like this. And Spider-Man's is that on that fateful day when Peter Parker was bitten by the spider, um, right after that, the spider bit someone else. And it was this girl. She's an Asian American girl. Her name is Cindy Moon. And then after that happened, she got locked in a bunker for however many years the Marvel Universe has been around. And so Peter basically runs into her, and suddenly she's out of a bunker. She has spider powers, but I think they're like organic somehow. I'm pretty sure. I'm not certain on
Her
that.
webbing's organic. She doesn't have web shooters.
Um, and whatever. It's just really dumb. It's a giant retcon. But way worse is the way Dan Slott actually writes her and handles it, because she and Peter Parker have this dumb pheromone thing going on where when
Yeah,
they're in the room together, they just want to fuck. It's really stupid and always
it's
awkward.
super immature.
Yeah, so she was introduced around Amazing Spider-Man 4 and 5. We're at 9 now. And after her quick introduction, she kind of disappeared for a little bit. And so now she's popping back in. She and Peter, they stop the looter, which we've
Well,
seen
wait,
the
you're
looter.
not going to talk about this opening splash page of a nude Peter Parker in
Well,
bed?
yeah, we see his butt a little bit, and there's a dumb editor's note joking about it. And so they stop the looter, who we've seen before. Nice gimmick, terrible villain. And there are some Superior leftovers because this is after Superior. And then suddenly, lots of Spider characters start showing up. first Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, and this is Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman, and this is Anya Corazon's Spider-Girl, and Spider-Man 2099 show up. 2099 has been stuck in the 616 timeline since an arc in Superior.
Yep.
And I'll note here, Spider-Woman, her powers, her origin story have nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Which is why is she part of this? Because name only.
It's like name only, but it like you can argue it, but I think it's really stupid. So I guess the argument is that she does call herself Spider-Woman, and so even within universe, like the superhero community would kind of also push her to interact with Spider-Man effectively. And obviously,
But
she's been
really
on.
don't like.
I mean, they were on New Avengers together. Well, they weren't really, but they
Well, yeah, the scroll.
yeah, through Bendis. But and then it's excused because the whole part of Spider-Verse is that all these parallel Spider-Men are totems because they have the same powers and everything like that. But there are actually other characters besides Jessica Drew in this crossover that are not totems. So she's not the only one. Like for example, there's like a I think she goes by Lady Spider. It's like the kind of steampunk version. She is apparently not a totem. Like she doesn't have legitimate spider powers. It's kind of weird, but I do begrudge the forcing that Marvel tries to do of making Spider-Woman actually related to Spider-Man.
No, I don't like it.
And also
Spider-Man UK shows up.
yeah, then UK and Mayday, the actual cool Spider-Girl, and Spider-Ham. And basically they all run away from Earth.
Yeah, they're like, hey, something's happening. We need you to come with us. You as in 616 Peter Parker.
And also on Earth, Kane and his new warriors get totally fucked up by Deimos.
Yeah, on Mount Wondergore.
Yeah. And well, because remember I mentioned that the part of the New Warriors run ties in with the High Evolutionary and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is like one way for me to not care about anything. Put it on Wondergore Mountain.
Yeah. Well, I liked how it like this book actually kind of does acknowledge that book. It's not like they only pick up with Kane. Like they show some New Warriors fucked up on the ground and reference that book, which is good. I'm sure you enjoyed seeing the New Warriors fucked up.
I mean, I did
as well,
but you only see one of them lying on the ground. It was Sam Alexander Nova.
Yeah, and Kane is the other. And the thing is, we've read pretty much every Kane appearance, so I think this is the first time he's actually referred to as the other. But we had discussed that in passing before.
Right.
Then on a couple of Spider people show up to try and save Kane. We have a Bruce Banner Spider-Man, but he's not the Hulk.
Yeah. Why? Like that one's really lazy. Like, just put Bruce Banner in the suit.
Yeah. We have Old Man Parker, which is they try and make the identity a mystery, and then we have Spider-Gwen.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll talk about Old Man Parker because at one point it was a Peter Parker from that universe, but he gets killed.
Yeah. And Spider-Gwen and the Edge of Spider-Verse miniseries preceded Spider-Verse proper. So
right.
Spider-Gwen has already had her first one-off appearance.
Which they're really in your face about Spider-Gwen from the start, aren't they? Her like because everyone has like a tag by who they are. So it's Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman of Earth 65, comma your new favorite. And I was like, I already hate this because I don't like Spider-Gwen.
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because I think her appearance is Edge of Spider-Verse #2. And so actually, depending on how stuff was published, Marvel may have had the sales numbers and seen the social
Yeah.
media before they like
I'm
finished writing
assuming
this.
that's what it is, but like it's still. But more importantly, our old favorite is also here because Ben Riley, the Spider-Man of Earth 94, clone from his world's Peter Parker, is also here.
Yes. Um, he makes his entrance, and so Earth 94 is basically how the Clone Saga was intended to happen. So this Ben Riley took over as Spider-Man. Peter Parker and Mary Jane stayed in Portland. Peter lost his powers, and Ben Riley became the one and only true Spider-Man.
Right.
And I kind of wish we read some more of his world, and we might
Yeah.
for the next episode.
I mean, it was cool seeing him there. Like he's there, he's in the suit, he's got his mask off, he's got the blonde hair, letting us know it's actually him. So that was pretty cool to see. Because
But
Kane meets
all,
up with me. Like, how are you alive?
yeah. Um, but also it's like he kind of fucks things up by showing up. He shows up and everyone gets distracted to like introduce him.
Yeah.
And it kind of allows like they get away. Um, and Mayday's world, well, not her world. Her parents are presumed dead.
Well,
Well,
yeah, because I actually ended up reading that stint because when I started reading that giant 600-page totem or tome, that was in there. It's I think it's Deimos or Moreland comes and Peter jumps in the way to save Mayday, and Mary Jane stays behind. So you think, and like then you hear a scream, and it's presumed that all of her boyfriend and then her parents are dead, and it's her and her brother that are left alive as she's taken away.
yeah. So that Mayday arc was backups in Amazing Spider-Man 7 and 8, while the main story in those issues was a team up between Spider-Man and Ms. Marvel.
Yeah,
We didn't really read those because it's not
I
super.
ended up reading them, so I did know what was happening there.
And so they go to this basically safe house world, and it's protected by Cosmic Spidey, which is basically splintered off from like midway through the McFarlane run, where Spider-Man had the Cosmic Universe powers during Acts of Vengeance.
Right. And his world is just what if he kept them?
Yeah, I think Koi Pell, his art style and the colors and everything, I think his Captain Universe costume looks really great.
Oh, it looks awesome.
Just like the
But
colors.
we never see him in the mask though.
Yeah. Um, and basically everyone comes to the conclusion that 616 Peter is the greatest of all time.
And then Peter's like, "Why am I the greatest?" He's like kind of whiny to be there, to be honest.
Yeah. He's the chosen one. And I think it's hilarious where like right after they explain that he's the chosen one, we cut to Miles Morales, and his opening narration is, "Sometimes I think I'm the worst Spider-Man." And
Looking at Mom's grave.
I don't truly believe this, but just
No.
like in a troll way, I was like, "You're right."
But
And
in a troll way, Peter Parker's 616 is also possibly the worst Spider-Man also. So
he and his version of Jessica get hunted by one of the other inheritors. And Jessica, at this point, we saw her when we read the Ultimate Clone Saga. By this point, she's going by the codename Black Widow, which they only referenced like one time quickly, way
yeah,
later.
I noticed she has a completely new costume.
Yeah. They just use her first name for a lot of it because she's mostly interacting with Miles. And so that's the end. They're getting hunted.
And then the inheritors have a feast,
Yeah.
and the plans are in motion.
Yeah, the epilogue, we get introduced to more of them, including Solace, who's the father,
Very
and
wordy epilogue, by the way.
yeah, we get a tease of Karn, who is kind of like a outcast inheritor, and he wears a dumb mask and has a
Wearing
big
like an old like scuba mask.
yeah. And we're getting more of the mythology. So there's the other, which we already know is Cain, and then there's the bride and the scion, which we will get to. Now, issue 10, we open with Miles and Jess being saved by Superior Spider-Man, Spider-Punk, and Assassin Spider-Man or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is Superior Spider-Man Otto Octavius.
Yes.
And Silk, and so everyone now is in the same place. And Silk realizes that she doesn't get horny around other people, except for
Yeah.
maybe Kane.
Well, this is one of the things that's just like bad characterization. You have this horrible like world-shattering thing going on, and she's going, "Wow, I don't want to have sex with any of these other Spider-Men." And I was like, "Wow, that's just terrible."
Yeah. And then speaking of crappy characterization, Pete gets introduced to Spider
Oh my
Gwen,
god, I hate this. I hate it.
and he acts like a patronizing weirdo. He's like, "No, she has to stay here in the safeguard. That's
Yeah,
Gwen."
you've met this version of Gwen for 5 seconds.
It's just really, it's really dumb. Um, and so Pete picks a team of Miguel, Jessica Drew, and Silk. But then Spider UK is like, "Nah, you can't use Silk." Or no, Old Man Spider. Is it Old Man Spider? What's his name? Old Man Parker.
Old Man Spider.
He says, "No, you can't take Silk." And it's not really clear who the substitution is for Peter's team initially.
But it doesn't matter because Silk sneaks in anyway.
Yep. And Spider UK picks Mayday and Spider Ham. And the third team, which we don't fully get addressed on panel, but it ends up being Old Man, Kane, and Ben Riley. And they transport to different worlds. Spider Monkey shows up. And then also Old Man Logan Spidey.
Yeah,
And
which she's the granddaughter of Peter Parker.
yes, she's the daughter of Peter's daughter. But do you remember who her father is?
Yes, I do. That would be Clint Barton,
Yeah.
aka Hawkeye.
Which is awful.
It's
Like,
so weird.
Clint Barton is totally, maybe even 10 years older than Peter Parker. He's at least 5 years older than Peter Parker. But yet in this universe, he has a child with Peter Parker's daughter.
Yep.
It's
And does she have spider I don't even think she has powers. She just is Spider-Man. Like the way it's written in Old Man Logan is that her and her friends are just dressed up in costumes.
yeah, it's kind of like a multiversity or Jupiter's Legacy. I forget which multiversity issue it is, but one of the multiversity issues or Jupiter's Legacy, which is also by Mark Millar, like the whole concept of poser superhero kids. Well,
Multiversity was written by Mark Millar.
no, but Jupiter's
There,
Legacy.
there you go.
And so we learn that Superior, he's shunted out of time, and so
Yeah, he was sent to 2099.
this version of him is from a certain point in the Superior series.
I think
And
when I was reading the Edge of Spider-Verse stuff, I think it was Superior Spider-Man number 19.
yeah, he has his own army that he's been hanging out with and developed a device which both allows the spider people to mask themselves from the inheritors,
Well,
which
yeah, the way it goes is that each spider person has like a different like they're all since they're all a totem, they're different version. Like each spider has their own kind of level of like highness on the totem scale, I guess. So he's been strategically recruiting people that don't have like a high level because the higher potency you have, that it's easier for the inheritors to find you, which we later find out that's why old man old man Spider didn't want uh
so
yeah Silk to go on the mission because they risk being found easier.
Yeah, she's the bride. And now that the other and the bride, now that they're all together, Deimos shows up and Spock Superior just murders him.
Yeah.
And
Also, yeah, his team has been like no holds barred, like just kill him.
yeah, and
Which
Pete.
honestly, with a scenario like this, yeah, go for that.
Yeah, I mean it's really questionable. Like when you get really morally, real like caught up in your morals and ethics when it's a
Well, it's being
multiversal.
presented as a war. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Which is why Peter taking the hard stance of like his no kill thing, it just annoys me in this because especially when it's revealed that oh they're all just clones anyway and they can come back. Why don't you just kill them?
Yeah.
And then, well, when we get to the ending, it just infuriates me. So
Other inheritors show up and start fucking everyone up, and they kill Old Man Spider, but it turns out it's Ezekiel,
yeah,
but from a world where Morlun killed Peter,
yeah, and he took that costume.
and that's why he knows all the lore, which is pretty convenient.
Also, we didn't mention how like during all of this, Spock was just like, I had everything under control. I had a plan, and Peter, you're here and just kind of fucking everything up.
Yeah, but we officially have seen Ezekiel, even though it's an alternate universe version, because during Spider Island we had a fake out Ezekiel, which ended up being Mysterio manipulation.
Right.
And everyone splits off into teams again. And this is very convenient because Kane, Ben, and Ultimate Jessica, they're all the clones.
Yeah, I liked that.
And so they're going to go deal with clone matters in the Scarlet Spider's
Well, they
tie-in.
go with Spider-Man 2099. Yeah,
Um,
they're picking up the clone of it's the clone of Deimos, right? They're going to try to study it for weaknesses.
no, no. The clones are going to the clone factory.
Oh, okay.
Fuck with
Okay. I
that.
thought 2099 went with them.
No, 2099. The Spider-Man with 8 limbs and Lady Spider, the steampunk version, go
Okay.
off in 2099 to basically do some medical experiments on Deimos's clone body, and that's covered in Spider-Man 2099 issues that tie in. Which I feel like these teams are totally unbalanced because Miguel
You put
obviously
the team of
anchored
all the
that.
scientists on one team.
Yeah,
No muscle there.
yeah, Miguel anchors that, and the other two characters are no names. And then the third team is Silk, Jessica Drew, and Spider-Man Noir, and they're basically going to keep on the run so that the Inheritors don't catch up to Silk, and that is in the Spider-Woman tie-ins. And that Spider-Woman series launches with Spider-Verse, and so that's
And then
in
isn't
March.
is it this issue that we get um or maybe it's the next issue that Miles gets his team.
Yeah. And the end of this issue, the big what's going to happen next is that Otto claims leadership of the entire Spider
Yeah.
Army.
And this final panel is just Olivier Coipel drawing Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's just straight up that shot of him from like behind holding the mask.
Part 3, number 11. Pete's argument is that he has experience fighting inheritors because he fought Marlon.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
which is true, but then Otto points out very accurately, so do I, because I'm in your body and I have your memories. Plus, the past few weeks, I've been already leading this army of spider characters, researching the inheritors and fighting them. And first of all, way better argument. But then Pete technically is like, it's kind of confusing because Pete kind of should have these memories, but he doesn't because Otto gets his memories wiped at the very end.
Right.
But Pete is from the slight future, but he doesn't want to show his cards yet for no reason.
Yeah.
And so it just turns into a schoolyard fight.
Well, no, this plays out like you're gonna laugh when I say this plays out like basically a WWE argument where the clear heel has the better statement, and then the good guy just punches him because we need a fight. So the
And
good guy, so the back, it just makes the good guy look worse. So
and
Pete comes off really bad here.
to make it even worse, practically all the other characters on panel, including some of the important ones like Spider-Gwen and stuff like that, they egg it on. They're like, "Go, go!" And it's like there's this giant multiversal war where there are crazy immortal beings that are trying to eat you. This is not the time.
Yeah, and the two of you are having a giant dick measuring contest.
But Pete, since he didn't reveal his cards, makes the ultimate power play by asking Otto to kill him. And Otto's like, well, he's I can't he's from the past, so I can't kill him because then I would die.
Right.
Not knowing that Pete is from the future.
Right.
And then Pete knocks him out for no reason, like an asshole. And
Yeah,
then
I don't really like Peter in this. He comes off first very whiny and then like an asshole.
yeah. And Miles and a young version of Peter Parker.
This is the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon Peter Parker.
Oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a slightly different like art style.
Yeah, because he's like cell shaded.
He and Miles, they're gonna go on the recruitment drive, and the first place they go to is the '60s animated TV show.
Right, and I've seen the panel that's been posted on Reddit a billion times of them meeting the 60 Spider-Man.
And yes, you can read that in Spider-Verse Team Up #2.
Which honestly, this seems more fun than the actual story, but okay.
And Pete, the main Peter Parker, Spider-Gwen, and Spider-Girl, Anya, are going back to grab Ezekiel's corpse or something. I'm not actually sure what they do.
They're going back to grab Ezekiel's corpse to study it also?
Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't think we
Yeah.
ever see like the conclusion of that on panel.
No, we don't.
Because the inheritors invade the stronghold world, and so we get a big battle between Solace and Captain Universe, and he kind of just eats his face.
Well, Captain Universe is useless because it's revealed that he has to stay on their safe zone world because that's the only place where his powers work. And then when Solace comes, he can't use his powers on him because he's from a different world. So he's useless.
Well, no, that's part of it, but I think the main explanation is that he's just totally useless because the Captain Universe power is a manifestation of like life force, which is
Uh-huh.
ultimately what the inheritors eat the spider people for. So he's actually just like negatively useful. He just provided a buff. He's like a protein shake for Solace. And it turns out baby Benji, Mayday's little brother, is the Scion.
Yeah.
And I think he'd been hinted at having powers in Spider-Girl stuff before this, but I don't understand, like I really don't understand the whole designation of the other and the bride and the Scion. Like the other, I don't remember. The thing is, like I read that JMS stuff so long ago. I guess the other, I don't understand the other. And then the bride, I guess it's just like, oh, generic female, whatever, from the same universe. And then Scion, they kind of explain it where like the Scion is like the most recent totem to exist.
Yeah.
So since he's so young, there aren't any totems following him yet.
Right.
No,
Whatever. It doesn't make any sense. They just need 3 people that are important.
it's kind of like the X-Men arc, the 12.
I didn't read that.
Well, it was teased forever, even going back to like Claremont stuff, and then they finally got to it in like 1998, and it was just like a total disappointment. uh, issue 12, Deimos gets away with baby Benji, and Lepardon from the Japanese live-action TV show, which included like mecha stuff, comes in.
Yeah, Japanese Spider-Man is just balls out crazy.
Yeah, he comes in with his mech and everything, but then like kind of doesn't do much. Like I feel like there's not even like the super satisfying splash page.
No, it's like half a splash page. It's not that great.
Silk ran away to a nuked out planet.
Yeah, and then her stupid communicator broke.
She learns the critical detail that the inheritors are somehow, for no explanation, particularly weak to radiation.
Yep.
And
Okay. I wonder if this planet's going to come back into play then later.
she makes herself a web suit to survive the radiation. And it's a funny visual gimmick for one panel. Jessica, meanwhile, is disguised on Loomworld as one of the servants, and the Master Weaver, who controls the web, like might kind of be a double agent, um,
Yeah.
and gives her some scrolls, which she ends up sending to Pete. The recruitment drive with Miles went well, and
They're in the spider buggy with like a bunch of Spider-Men hanging off of them. It's great.
the spider buggy is a Spider-Man. That's the best part.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it talks and it
Oh,
has
I just realized that. Yeah.
And there's a great footnote. We quickly cut to the 2099 folks where it says, see more of the dissection in this book. The great out of context caption. And it turns out the inheritor that focuses on science and the whole cloning aspect has been able to hear their communications this entire fucking
Yeah,
time.
it's like hilarious. Did you enjoy when they sick the villains on him? Did you enjoy Rhino and Gimp gear?
Yeah, with his eyes covered and everything. It's
His
really
eyes
good.
covered?
And so they get ambushed and they all flee to wherever Silk is.
Yeah, the radiation planet.
And they get to the bunker, which Silk found. And it turns out the big giant reveal in this issue, the totem of this world is Uncle Ben.
Yeah, and this is where the story just goes completely off the rails and just basically the train derailed off a bridge after this issue.
Well, I feel like it is a little bit derailed because as we get into 13, some of the stuff that happens in the tie-ins, like we don't like they don't deserve entire like tie-in issues.
I feel
But
like they should have all just been one shots.
well, what I was saying is some of the stuff that happens in them is kind of critical to the plot.
Yeah, Ben Riley just dies off panel in this.
Yeah, the cloning facility is destroyed, so we don't have to worry about the inheritors reviving themselves anymore. And Ben Riley died. Uh,
Yeah,
which
so it basically chalk him up to a really fun extended, like not even extended. He's just a cameo.
and it's like kind of fucked up. I mean, obviously we're doing this clone podcast, but it's kind of fucked up specifically that he's one of the major deaths off panel, at least within this main series. But he's from the universe where the Clone Saga, went that other major route.
Right.
Um, so kind of
Right,
sad.
you didn't have us read those three issues for this.
Um, and Solace, there's a nice, just dumb use of lettering where Solace declares that there will be Spider-Man no more, and it's big and giant and bold because Spider-Man no more. And speaking of Spider-Man no more, Uncle Ben's backstory is that he got the powers instead of Peter,
This is so stupid.
and his big fuck up is that Aunt May and Peter died, and so he pussied out
Yeah.
and was just like, I give up being Spider-Man. Did the classic Spider-Man No More panel, threw in the trash can, and never went back to get it. And Ezekiel of his world was like, "Hey, you want to like hang out in this bunker forever?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Something's eventually going to happen where we need you.
And it turns out Otto Octavius of this world set off all the nukes, and that annoys Superior Spider-Man a little bit. So that was funny.
Did you like how Silk, because her communicator's broken, and basically this series just makes her out to be a giant fuck up, directed them to the bunker by just webbing up a bunch of arrows to the direction that they were at?
And on her note, she and Spider Gwen decide we're gonna go save Jessica, even though like Jessica has said, I'm undercover. I'm probably fine for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this is setting up the whole. I mean, it's kind of proto Spider Women, which eventually becomes like a crossover.
Also, Jessica's able to, yeah, because her communicator doesn't have enough. Or I guess her communicator slash transporter. I should state that that's the way these things are. That they have all strapped to their wrists. She's able to transport these scrolls over
Yeah.
that should give them an edge instead of being able to transport herself over.
And we get this scene, it's basically like one page where Spider UK consoles Spider Man India. And it's basically the message of Into the Spider Verse,
Yeah, but Into the
where it's
Spider
like,
Verse does it better.
yeah, where it's like everyone can be Spider Man, everyone is Spider Man. But it's kind of mixed messaging because then the entire whole point of the story is that 616 Peter is the chosen one. Even though I feel like I guess he's the chosen one because he leads them all, but there is no like super crucial role within the mythology of the story that he plays. It's not like he has an equivalent role as the bride and the scion. He's just happens to have a bit of experience with inheritors and ends up leading them after beating up Superior in a dumb fight. I feel like if Spock actually led this, I mean, he may not have like maybe he doesn't win, but it's not like significantly different. It's not night and
No, that
day.
was the thing. Like they never, and it doesn't help that like Spock's reasoning, he actually should be the leader. That's the other thing.
And Spock has a basically personal assistant computer which uses Anna Maria's personality. And Peter is like, "Hey, that's Anna Maria's voice." And that's like the weird like subtle reveal where Otto's like, "Oh fuck." And he's like, "Wait, he knows who Anna Maria is. He's from the future. I'm fucked." But doesn't reveal that to Peter yet. And I feel like that wasn't played up enough at this point at least. And then Kane ditches Ultimate Jess and just leaves her stranded in in that world. So he runs off to Loom World as well because he's mad at Ben Riley died. So now all three of the power pieces are on Loom World, right where the inheritors want them. But Kane goes all spider monstery and kind of just murders Solace
Yeah,
with not much effort, kind of anticlimactic.
and then the rest of the inheritors just kind of take him down.
Yeah, but yeah, they kill him, I guess. Even that, it's not clear. They kind of just like beat him up and then rip off one of his legs. Anya Corazon is able to decode the scroll somehow because they retconned her powers more related to the web. Like she was Madam Web's protege and all that stuff. And you can see some more details of that apparently in Spider Verse Team Up number 3. And the team with that Miles leads, they start calling themselves the Web Warriors, which eventually becomes a dumb Spider Verse spin-off series.
Yep.
They're going to go pick up Ultimate Jess, and then the Spider Women on Loom World. Jessica Drew makes a bad wiki reference.
Yeah.
That was pretty awkward. And then the end of this issue is among my favorite parts of this series, where Pete wastes some time trying to pep talk Uncle Ben. He's like, he's just wasting time. Like again,
Yeah.
this is another instance where it's like there's this
Time is
giant
on the clock.
war. There are other Spider characters at play. You know that like the three critical players are now in danger. One of them's already dead, but you don't know that yet.
One
And
of
you're
them
like,
are dead, you think, and they have the other two. Like,
and one of them is a baby,
yeah,
which the baby younger brother of a character who kind of sort of is your daughter,
yeah,
and therefore that baby is kind of sort of your alternate universe son. But he wants to pep talk this single guy with spider powers who is still a frail old man.
yeah. Well, not only that, it's because it's Uncle Ben. Well, it's not your Uncle Ben, so you have no actual connection with this guy.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Spider Gwen, where he's constantly being patronizing towards her.
Yeah,
But then it's amazing because Superior Otto gets the job done and pep talks Uncle Ben properly.
yeah,
And his message is basically you always get back up. It's kind of the Rocky motto, and all you have to do is win once. And I felt like understanding the Superior arc and everything like that, like this is like really the most emotional. It's not really played as emotional, but this is the most emotional aspect of this entire Spider Verse story.
yeah.
Otherwise, just dumb fight stuff and crossovers. But this is him where he's fully realizing like I'm not going to be superior forever. I lose to Peter Parker, but I won that once and I learned a few things and I proved to be effective and everything like that.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
so
all going to go out the window in 2 issues.
yeah, and so I won the battle, I lost the war or whatever. You can be like me.
Who's the
Um,
little black and white Spider-Man?
he's from like some manga because there's
Okay.
like a group of three Japanese ones. Now, number 14, this is the finale. Gwen doesn't know about goblins, which is rare for a Spider-Man character, but she will later. Harry Osborn becomes a Green Goblin in the Spider-Gwen series.
Okay.
And as soon as he shows up, Pete is patronizing toward her again. He's like, "No, everyone, focus on Gwen and save her."
Oh my god.
She's like, "Fuck off! I can save myself." But it's like Dan Slott tries to write it as her like not actually being mad at him because it's just really dumb. It's
Well,
like,
here's another thing too. There's a bunch of spider people, right, that have gathered here. There hundreds. It's already been explained in like the tie-ins leading up to this and stuff that hundreds have died. She's one of the ones that survived up to this point. I think she can handle herself.
yeah, and also she's literally just the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about her that she happens to be Gwen. It's really dumb. But it's Pete is written as like he's written as a white knight, but from the perspective of someone who like thinks the concept of and I mean white knight in like the meme way, but it's written from the perspective of someone who thinks that kind of white knighting behavior is positive. It's called out, but it's like called out but still appreciated in a positive way. It's really weird.
Well, the other thing, once again, I'm going to state it. It's not your Gwen.
Yeah.
So you have like why you're doing this, being overly protective to someone who's clearly getting the job done. Like I have no idea. Like I hate it.
Yeah. The inheritors, they're cutting people up and trying to rush through the ritual. And they cut open Kane's spider body and they say there will never be another other, which I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome.
And then, kind of the Deus Ex Machina, the outcast inheritor Karn shows up and just switches sides.
Yeah,
Because Solace died, his banishment kind of just was like no longer active, so he was just
yeah.
able to slip in. It's not like anyone invited him. And
No.
he's just like, I don't. He's like, you guys kind of fucked me over, so I'm just gonna join the Spider People.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna play for the winning side here.
And I get, but the thing is, even then, like he shows up and it's supposed to be this big deal, but we don't see a ton of him. Like,
Well, I think. Well, I'll get into this when we talk about overall thoughts. But for a book that's being advertised as this giant action-packed adventure for 6 issues, You could argue 5 out of the 6 issues are just people sitting around talking.
Yeah. But like he shows up and it's supposed to be a big deal, but we don't see him actually turning the tide of the battle or anything like that. He just kind of gets like one move off, and then it's like he disappears in the background for 20 pages. And the big switcheroo, Uncle Ben swapped baby Benji with naked Spider Ham.
I liked this.
It's a little funny.
I
Um,
like the panel of Uncle Ben Spider-Man just carrying the baby back in his world.
and basically, Pete traps Morlun on the nuked Earth, and then eventually they trap everyone else. But Otto throws a wrench into things by just murdering the Master Weaver.
Well, no, that happens before
Yeah.
Peter traps Morlun, and this is, well, by the way, during the middle of this, Peter's plan is just to kill himself and Morlun on the radiation Earth because I'm not going to kill anyone. We can't do that. No, his plan is still to kill him anyway.
Yeah.
And then Silk opens up a portal and whisks and saves him again, and he pulls the Batman Begins. I don't have to save you, but I won't kill you. No, you. This is. You just went against everything your giant speech said. No.
Well, you could say the Batman Begins, or isn't that also what Batman did to KG Beast a few issues, like 10 issues ago?
Well, it's revealed. Well, I mean, I haven't read that yet, but to be
Um,
fair, though, Batman kind of also already killed KG Beast before
yeah.
by sealing him in a room and putting bricks up. So
Um, and then this issue and kind of the entire story ends with an awkward Pete and Silk moment.
yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
But, and that's supposed to be the end, but we have an entire issue devoted to epilogue.
This epilogue's
And
bad.
so basically it's a string of people saying goodbye. Mayday goes home, and it turns out Uncle Ben wants to stay with her. Her mother, Mary
Well,
Jane, is
yeah, it turns out
alive.
MJ and her brother are still alive,
Yeah.
which I don't know how they were still alive.
And then the dumb part is that her mother is like, "Hey, your dad died, so now you can wear his costume."
I kind of liked that though. I was like, here, take this.
I mean, I kind of like the concept, but it's like, first of all, you're downgrading to a worse costume. Let's be real. And the entire point of her
Wait, are you
costume,
saying Ben Riley's costume is better?
yes,
Okay.
the entire point of her costume is that she's tributing her Uncle Ben.
True.
And so she's already got that kind of like martyr tribute costume going on.
Yeah.
And then there's a caption where she's like, "I'm no longer Spider Girl, I'm Spider Woman."
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have an inherent problem with that,
I don't either. I think that was
but
fine.
like, I mean, I guess it's that she's not ultimately super central to Spider Verse, but
No,
in this last panel, it's trying to present this as like this major moment for her. And
it would be a major moment if we got another book out of it, but it's not.
yeah, and of course, it's by Dan Slott, whereas 99.9% of Spider Girl's appearances are by the same exact writer. And so it feels kind of forced and disingenuous. And again, we don't get a series coming out of this or anything like that for her. Then Otto just he grabs the knife and he starts cutting up the web of life to try and prevent the
Well,
future.
to be fair, I liked the goodbye between Peter and Miles. I liked Miles going like, I kind of wanted to hang out with you and team up
Yeah.
this time, but they're like, hey, we'll get you next time. I liked that.
And then 2099 and Gwen get special send offs together. And Dan Slott slash editors, they kind of try and be a little cute where they're like, all right, Gwen, you're going back to Earth 65. And Miguel, you're going to Earth 616 in 2099. And it's like, no, technically it is kind of a different Earth
Yeah.
because the entire concept of 2099 doesn't make any sense, especially when we inevitably get to 2099. And thanks to Disney owning them, Marvel will probably still be publishing comics. The question is whether we will be alive. Maybe not. Probably not. And just to make everything worse, in this epilogue issue, Peter Parker makes a BuzzFeed reference.
Yeah. Also, Julia Carpenter wakes up.
Yeah, she wakes up in one panel and she's like, "Oh, the web's all fucked up," and then that's it.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
And there's this reveal that's supposed to be that we're supposed to care about, where they take off the Weaver's mask, and it's like, oh, it's absolutely no one. And then Karn takes off his mask, and they're like, oh, you're the Weaver,
Yeah. It's like what?
because they need another Weaver because Otto fucked up the web, and they
I
need the
thought they
web.
were gonna position as Anya doing it
Yeah. Um. But
because she
then,
established that she can read the text and stuff.
Karn is like, well, I was already the Weaver, so I guess I'll be the Weaver again.
Yeah, that's
And
his penance for killing a bunch of Spider-Men.
yeah, but he already was. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It definitely should have been Anya or like an actual character,
Yeah.
similar to how Julia had to take over the Madam Web role.
But I mean, to be fair though, we find out that they do have plans for Anya.
Yeah. They send Otto back in time to Superior Spider-Man 19 or whichever
I mean, I
number.
do want to say I hate this entire auto fight because it's just needless.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, this whole issue, it's like Otto fighting everyone. Why? But like in the middle, characters are saying goodbye and being totally fine. It's really weirdly paced.
I liked how Gwen was like, "Hey," she was asking Spider-Man 29, like, "How does this work out?" She's like, "Oh yeah," he was like, "Oh yeah, the good guys win."
Yeah.
Which immediately that happens mid-fight, so there's no tension here.
Yeah. And the weird part is Spider UK is supposed to go home, but actually his entire universe is dead.
Because
Thanks to
Secret Wars is happening.
yeah, thanks to the incursions. And it says to check out Secret Wars Spider Verse to see what Spider UK and Anya are going around doing, because they both. I mean, he has nowhere to go back to, and she has a connection with the scrolls and all this bullshit. And so they're kind of going to hop around and do whatever.
Okay. And Kane is still alive as they've all exited the temple, but the dead spider carcass that Kane was inside of, we see a hand burst out. So this ain't the end for Kane quite yet.
It's hard to keep him down. This is his like second time dying.
Yeah, I think it's like his third.
Yeah. And we also get a footnote to check out Silk #1.
No, I'm good.
And Pete's conclusion after leading this giant army of spider people in this multi-dimensional war is that maybe I will try and run this company that Otto set up in my absence.
Oh, you read it like that? I read it as like, all right, I'm too big for these small thief problems.
Yeah. And that's the end.
And then but then he stops a car thief anyway.
Next episode, we'll touch on a little bit of tie-ins, primarily the Scarlet Spider series, because we'll get to see a little bit more of the clones hanging out and talking, and probably little bits and pieces of some other stuff as I feel that it's actually relevant. I believe Spider-Verse Team Up #1 focuses a bit on the Ben Reilly, so we'll probably add that one on. But let's talk overall.
I don't. I wanted to like it, but I don't.
I don't like it, but I also like it. What I realized actually,
Yeah, I lean towards not liking it though.
yeah, what I realized in the way that we've been doing this with the reading order, focusing on the clone related stuff, is when you really think about it, Spider Verse is just an interdimensional, overblown version of Spider Island.
It is, yeah,
No, wait, yeah, of Spider Island.
yeah,
You basically substitute the Kravenoffs for the Inheritors.
yep.
And instead of all the 616 spider people, it's interdimensional spider people. It's the exact same plot.
Which is funny because I do want to bring up the fact that Dan Slott has now written this Spider Island, and he started this concept with that Shattered Dimensions game. He's essentially written the same story 3 times.
Yep. And 4 times because he plots the eventual proper full sequel to this, Spider Geddon, which we might cover on this show as possibly at this point
Leave in the comments
our,
below if you want us to cover Spider Geddon.
our final stuff, but we will determine that. Um, I don't know. I mean, we both. What do you feel about like Morlun and the Inheritors overall?
I don't like Morlun and the Inheritors.
Yeah,
They're like villains that are way too powerful to be Spider-Man villains. And then
and
they're like villains that don't really feel like they should be in the Marvel universe to me either.
yeah, I mean, their mythos just doesn't make sense to me.
I feel like if there's only one person I can think of that could kind of in the realm of who should be fighting them, and it's maybe Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Um, it's I don't know. Kane didn't get much to do. So ultimately, besides the fact that like you can argue that all the interdimensional stuff is similar to clones, there's not that much clone stuff in the story itself.
Well, I mean, I want to kind of compare this a second to because there is kind of a light comparison to something like this to like maybe Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? The
Yep.
problem is when everyone is essentially the same character at the end of the day. They're all Spider-Man at the end of the day. So the only thing that really separates them is kind of their costume. So I I think you can like this by liking all the designs, but like obviously it kind of ends there. At the end of the day, it's just Spider Person version. Put a number next to it. I enjoy to compare this to like something like Crisis on Infinite Earths, where we have a bunch of different heroes and a bunch of different villains, and then like you get some overlapping versions.
Yeah.
But like I still think there's quite a difference between like Superman Earth 2 and Superman Earth 1.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I mean, in Spider Verse, there's like 5 characters that have distinct characters.
Yeah.
Everything else is just cameos and gimmicks and everything like that. Which I mean, it would be I don't know within the scope of this story, it would be pretty hard to get as deep as Crisis on Infinite Earths, that kind of scale.
Well, I'm gonna argue in favor of well, it was supposed to be that because Dan Slott was hyping this up as you're gonna see every version of Spider-Man ever.
Yeah. Um, but it's whatever. Like I think this is a dumb. I think it kind of is a genius one-off. Like
It's a
okay,
genius one-off just for marketing purposes.
yeah, like okay, here is this insane thing. I really, really hate that it's become its own sub franchise in its
Yeah,
own.
I don't like that it's. I hate that it's his own sub franchise. But at the end of the day, that movie was damn good.
Yeah, and the reason it is has become this bigger thing is basically I'm gonna be an old man asshole. It's basically because normie fans just really get off on the idea of these like crossovers and like crazy guest appearances and stuff like that.
Well, and it's a genius idea because, like we said, you can. There's it with the infinite costume designs. You can sell toys of all of this shit too. So like,
Yep, or make big blockbuster movies, well, animated at least. And for that, you can
well, I
check
mean, and then you
our,
have video games too, because with Shattered
yeah,
Dimensions. So
you can check our Saga the Clone Saga special episode where we reviewed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Into the
we
Spider-Verse.
were very positive on that movie. I was more positive on that movie than I was on this comic book.
Yeah. So not much else to say.
I'm hoping I enjoy the tie-ins. I felt like while reading this, I had the kind of this. I was like, I'd rather read the tie-ins. It seems like it's going to be more fun than this major story. But I
Yeah.
think to be critical of this story, for it to be hyped up as this big action-packed universe-sprawling adventure, and it's basically 5 issues of people sitting in a room and talking. it sucks.
or just running away from each other.
Yeah.
So that is our final word on Spider-Verse. Tune in next time for more Spider-Verse, and we'll see you then. We just have a few more episodes to go.
Yeah, I think we're single digits and counting down, right?
Yep. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.